I am Dr. Julie Taylor Massey. I'm a faculty member in the HDFS department and your co-host for this event, along with Lucy Paltu Brady, who is an HDFS Academic Success Coordinator. We are so happy to have you on this Tuesday. It's 2/22/22, which is a palindrome if you didn't know that already, which means that the date can be read the same forward and backward. Palindromes are like rare, they don't happen very often. So that does make this a special day. And we're so glad to have you here spending part of it with us to talk and learn about gap year opportunities. I want to thank our fabulous panelists for being here. They are a wealth of knowledge and experience and looking forward to gleaning from them. Before I introduce them, though, I do want to talk about some housekeeping items, and I want to introduce Lauren Brigande, who is our HDFS communication specialist and who is helping to facilitate this event and help it run smoothly in a virtual format, and Megan and Janelle, who are our Rockin' peer advisors who are helping to make things run smoothly too. Okay, in terms of housekeeping items, we are asking students to sign into the event. There will be a sign-up sheet later that we will put in the chat, and we'll let you know about that. So probably toward the end of when the panelists speak. When you do sign in for that, we want to make sure you include your name, your class, and your instructor, because if your instructor is providing extra credit, we want to make sure we can confirm your attendance here. In the meantime, though, if you could please make sure that you are signed into Zoom with your first and last name, because that's another way that we can make sure we know that you're here. And we ask that you keep your cameras on for the event as well. Thank you so much. In terms of more netiquette, we have muted everybody upon entry. We ask that you stay muted. And during the Q&A at that time, if you would like to ask a question, you're welcome to unmute at that point, or you can put your question in chat at any time. The panelists, when they're speaking, will have about 10 minutes each to speak, and we won't ask questions during the time they're talking. So either put it in the chat for that question, or again, during the Q&A, you can raise your hand and you can unmute and then ask your question directly. So I think those are all the housekeeping items. With that out of the way, I want to tell you how we're going to spend the rest of our time together tonight. I'm going to introduce the panelists in the order that they're speaking. Again, they're going to have 10 minutes each. They're going to share their information with us. And then we should hopefully have about 20 minutes at the end where we'll have that Q&A. In between panelists, I will try to facilitate that. So panelists, you'll know when it's your turn next. A warm welcome to our panelists, who are Kara Johnson, who is the Career Development Manager in the College of Health and Human Sciences, Savannah Thomas, an HDFS alum and former Peace Corps volunteer, Vanessa Hayward, who's the Senior Coordinator for CSU's Education Abroad programs, Jake Drollinger, a Colorado-based recruiter for City Year, Britt Carson, an HDFS alum and in her second year at Teach for America, and Terry Schlittling, and I'm sorry, Terry, if I mispronounce that, the Assistant Director of Health and Health Professions Advising at CSU. Okay, well, with all of that done, I'm going to turn it over to Kara, our first presenter.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Kara Johnson. I'm the Career Development Manager for the College of Health and Human Sciences. So what that really means is I work with students across the College of Health and Human Sciences on anything related to career stuff. So that could be career major exploration. It could be looking for opportunities to gain experience while you're a student. It could be applying to jobs and internships, and some of those things that go along with that. So like resume, cover letter reviews, interview preparation. So pretty much the full spectrum of career services is what I provide. So that's me. I also have a colleague, Courtney Sanders, who works in the college with me and meets with students around all those same things. And another colleague, Amy Guy, that works with me as well. So since tonight we're talking about gap year experiences, and I work with students on just kind of career exploration. my take and kind of my approach in talking about this tonight is going to be more kind of broad, big picture, how to think about gap years and taking that, whereas I think some of the other panelists will be more specific with their organizations and how that could be a good opportunity for gap year experiences. But yeah, so I'll talk kind of big picture, and then if you all have questions at the end, I'm more than happy to kind of talk through some of that. But I thought it would be helpful to maybe start off with just some reasons that it might be helpful to consider taking a gap year, some of the benefits of taking a gap year. So, and for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with a gap year, it's basically taking a year to do some different things after college, so instead of going straight into like a graduate program or going straight into employment, for example, maybe doing some different things. So, I think some benefits of that could be, it's a great chance to explore different interests. And passions and just things that maybe you haven't had as much time to delve into. Gap years can be really great for just developing more self-awareness, having that time to kind of reflect on your interests, your values, and what you might want for the future. It's a great opportunity to take on things where you might be able to develop some new skills, have those different experiences. I think it can be a great way to develop independence and confidence as well. It's also great, a lot of times people will take it as an opportunity to travel and have new cultural experiences. So it can be great for that. Also, it can really help with time management and goal setting. So, I mean, really a gap year is intended to be, utilized in a certain way. So it's typically not just kind of like sitting around and doing nothing, but being intentional about how you're using that time, right? And so it can really teach you how to manage your time effectively and how to kind of set those goals so you get the most out of that experience. And it can just be a great opportunity to take a break from academics. You all have been in school for a long time, so it can be a great just chance for that. And then I think with anything, right, it's just important to consider pros and cons, right? And it's going to be different for everybody in terms of what those might be. So knowing yourself and understanding what makes sense for you, because there's lots of benefits, but also being able to kind of consider what are some maybe potential drawbacks that could happen with taking a gap year. So sometimes people have a concern that they might lose momentum academically, for example, if they're planning on going to graduate school or something like that, where that may be a concern. So I think this is always an individual thing, and knowing yourself and not assuming just because you're taking a gap year that you will lose momentum. But really that's where that I think goal setting and just kind of self-awareness helps with using that time effectively, so that you don't lose that momentum. Depending on what you do and how you spend your time in a gap year, it could, be costly depending again on what you're doing, if you're traveling or doing things like that. So it's just important to kind of be aware of that and think about some of those things. And sometimes people might feel like, okay, if I'm taking a gap year, but my friends are, starting graduate programs or they've started their full-time jobs or whatever it is, you might have that sense of like feeling left behind or, stuff like that. But again, I think it's usually you're going to get a lot of benefit out of doing a gap year. And so you might feel like that in the beginning, but if you're intentional about what you want to get out of that experience, but again, it's just helpful to kind of have awareness around some of those things that might crop up for you and to plan for those things. And then I think it might be helpful to just kind of touch on a few things that you could consider using your time, for in a gap year. So I already kind of touched on a couple things, but it's a great time for, potential travel. Are there places that you've always wanted to see or things that you've wanted to check out? It could also be a good time for things like volunteering, internships, mentorships, part-time and temporary work. So it's not like you have to go straight into full-time employment right after you graduate, right? It could be a time to take on work opportunities, but maybe in a different kind of capacity to try some different things on, see how you feel about it. You know, professional development, personal development sorts of activities. Are there like conferences or, you know, different activities or camps or things that you might want to go to, or classes or workshops or things that you might want to take for fun or just personal interest? It's also a good time. A lot of people will work on if graduate school or professional school is in the mix, or you're thinking about that, taking a gap year to kind of work on building your academic credentials, if maybe there are some things you still need to kind of do in preparation for graduate or professional school, or it's a great time to kind of work on your applications for those programs to give you kind of that time to get everything in order, all your documents, you know, write strong personal statements, things like that. And then there's specific programs that you can do. And so that's great that some of the other panelists will be able to touch on some of their programs and how that could be of benefit during a gap year. But there's things like language immersion programs or cultural exchange programs, leadership development types of programs, teaching, whether that's teaching abroad or, you know, teaching in another capacity, nature wildlife programs. So kind of depending on your interests or skills that you might want to develop, those are all programs that you might consider during a gap year. And then I think it's important because all of this, you know, is just, these are all possibilities, but it's going to depend on you and your specific interests, personality. What do you want to get out of it? What are your goals? So I think it's important to just consider some things or ask yourself some questions around that. So like, what are your goals? What, you know, and will a gap year help you achieve that? And that doesn't mean you have to have like a super specific goal in terms of like, this is the job I want or something like that, but more of just like, again, kind of what do you want to get out of that time? Are there specific skills you want to be developing? What will be meaningful to you when you look back at the end of that year? What will feel meaningful or like it had an impact on you? Also kind of just thinking around your motivations. Are you motivated to do the things that you plan to do, or, you know, kind of accomplish the goals that you're setting for yourself during that time? Because motivation is really critical. Again, kind of just thinking about, you want to be intentional around that time, and are you going to be motivated to kind of manage your time and do those things that you want to do? Finances. So that's one, you know, I kind of mentioned earlier, but just kind of being aware of, depending on what you want to do and how you want to spend that time, do you have the finances that you need in order to do that? If it is something like traveling or doing a more structured sort of a program that might cost money, right? So thinking about how much is that going to cost? Do you have the finances, or how might you support yourself during that time? Is it going to be, you know, you're going to work part-time, or you're going to, what is that going to look like? Is someone else going to help support that time that you're taking?
Sarah, down to 1 minute, thanks.
Yep. Awesome. That's great, because that's just about all I had. So, and then I think just thinking about, you know, being flexible, because a gap year is, you know, there's a lot of things that could kind of be up in the air and changing. So I think just flexibility is important. So in a nutshell, I think those are just some things to consider around gap year.
Oh, those were some really great things to consider. I was taking notes. Can I qualify for a gap year? Thank you, Kara, so much. We're going to hand the mic to Savannah.
Thank you, Julie. I will share my little presentation with you all. Hi, everyone. My name is Savannah Thomas. I'm a school counselor in Denver these days. I graduated from CSU from HDFS in 2016, and then I went straight to the Peace Corps in 2016, in September 2016, returned in 2018. I was in Rwanda. So I'll tell you a little bit about Peace Corps itself. I'll go through my story of how I got into the Peace Corps, and then I'll answer some frequently asked questions. I know we have a question and answer time at the end, but I know I usually get like some of the same questions. So I just want to throw that out there. So here we have the two Logos for Peace Corps, the top one on top is the old logo. So if you see that around, that actually changed in 2017. So in the middle of my service, to change this middle one. The Peace Corps mission, so it's a US government entity. So the whole goal is to promote world peace and friendship by fulfilling 3 goals. So the way that we operate is through countries asking for Peace Corps to come in and support in whatever way that they're looking for. So I'll go through the sectors in a little bit, but it's the countries asking the US government, the Peace Corps, to meet their need for trained, the wording is men and women, but let's be more inclusive. It's trained people to come in and either help with trainings, teaching, health work, things like that. So that's the first goal. The second goal is to promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of the people. So we go into these countries, maybe some of them, there aren't maybe the best diplomatic relationships. So it's a good way for us to like grassroots be like, okay, this is how Americans are. This is how we can create a more cohesive partnership or global connection from the parts of the different countries. And, you know, some of these things are, I will admit, like a little neo-colonialistic, and I will be the first to critique Peace Corps on some of these goals, but I also think that it's something that we can work on as individuals that are in the Peace Corps or doing these different service jobs to kind of make it your own and make it, again, what the country or what your area is looking for. So the third goal for the Peace Corps is to promote a better understanding of where you're going, the country, the culture, promote that understanding for Americans. So I know like it's been great to have social media during this time. I posted a lot of pictures about Rwanda. A lot of people go straight to thinking about the Rwandan genocide, which is a very big part of their history. But what made it my mission to make sure that Americans know that that's not the only part of their history. And it's a beautiful country and there's amazing people and really great things going on. So that's one of the biggest goals I see for Peace Corps. So the sectors that that Peace Corps uses are agriculture, environment, community economic development, education, health, and youth and development. I was in education. I taught elementary English, and I also trained other English teachers in Rwanda. And in Rwanda, we also had health volunteers. So if you have questions about education or health, I can answer that. The other ones, not so much, but happy to try later. So my road to Peace Corps, I grew up in Fort Collins, actually. So I don't know if anybody knows, but CSU in Fort Collins has one of the highest population of returned Peace Corps volunteers or people that go into the Peace Corps. So there's always big events for people who have returned there. So when I was in high school, I went to a return Peace Corps volunteer event to volunteer for like volunteer hours. And I was like enamored. I was like, I'm going to do this when I'm older. This is happening. And then I got like major senioritis my junior year of high school. And that's like, I was Liz Lemon all the time, just like over it. So I attempted to apply to the Peace Corps when I was 18. It doesn't work like that. You do need a degree. So I'm like Kara all the way pro gap years. I took a gap year after high school and I was an au pair in Vienna. I'd be happy to talk about that. I know there's no au pairs on this panel, but I also promote that as a gap year option. So I'm happy to talk about that. And that was a really great experience for me to learn another language, to immerse myself in a culture, to work with students and kind of help teach English to non-native English speakers. So that was a really cool experience when I was younger. And that brought me to CSU to study human development and family studies. And I specialized in early childhood careers, I think is what it was called at the time. So I was working at the Early Childhood Center, the preschool that's part of CSU, and I loved that, but I knew that I wanted to kind of branch out, and I was thinking about being a bilingual teacher, and I minored in Spanish. So I studied abroad in Chile. That's like the best picture I can find myself there. Sorry. And I love that. It was another great experience. I found an opportunity in Chile where I could volunteer to teach at a local elementary school and like be part of their English club. And I think that was another great experience that I like hopped on, and an opportunity that I really took advantage of so that I could kind of prepare myself. I mean, this whole time I knew I wanted to do Peace Corps, so it was very much like pointed, but I think, you know, any of your experiences you can take and kind of like aim them towards whatever you want to do and say like, okay, these are the skills that I learned, or like, this is the experience that I had, and kind of tailor that to wherever you're going or whatever you want to do. So ultimately I ended up applying to the Peace Corps. I just said, I want to work with kids. I knew Spanish. I assumed I would go to a Spanish speaking country. That is incorrect. I was accepted into Rwanda, which speaks Kinyarwanda and French. So I learned some Kinyarwanda. That was me and my co-teachers on International Teachers Day. So I had the best time ever, though. It was amazing. I can go through the application process a little later. It's kind of intense, but that's kind of my story of how I made it into Peace Corps. So I was there from 2016 to 2018. You know, at the time when I was a junior in college, I was thinking like, I know I want to go to grad school to be a school counselor, but I also want to do the Peace Corps. And I spoke with Dr. Jen Krafchick, if any of you know her. I love her. She did Peace Corps, and, you know, she obviously has gone to grad school. So she helped me decide like, okay, this is a good time. Like Kara was talking about, like take this time off to focus on like my skills and things that, you know, maybe they don't teach in grad school, or, you know, get this experience, because it's, I don't know, it's a pretty unique opportunity, and it's not always the optimal time. And I think, you know, right after ending an education kind of path is a really good time to take this little gap. And, you know I have friends that did Peace Corps with me that are still in the country or still doing this type of work. So, you know, it doesn't have to always be a gap. It can be kind of like a natural progression to a different pathway. So that is like my little story. So I'll go through some frequently asked questions. These are also two of my favorite pictures from Rwanda. This is where I lived at the base of volcanoes where mountain gorillas live. And this is me with a gorilla, which is probably the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. But we'll talk about this. So training, Peace Corps is 27 months long. So the first 3 months are training. And that's the same for any country. And then 2 years after, or then you have your service for 2 years. So during training, you're learning the language, you're getting training on like whatever you'll be doing. So I got my TEFL certificate, so teaching English as a foreign language. I got that through Peace Corps, which was another really cool opportunity that is not common for all Peace Corps assignments. And so I think, you know, if you're thinking about what you want to do abroad or what you want to do after your gap year, if you can like loop other things in, like certificates or things like that, to like build up your resume, build up your skill set. Like I could go now and teach abroad if I wanted to. I would need more training probably at this point, but it is like a really cool kind of sub perk of what I did. You're also learning about the culture. I think a lot of people are really worried about learning a language. So just a heads up that you get that help, and it's all good.
Savannah, about a minute left. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Everything depends is the answer that you'll probably hear a lot in adulthood and just in any of these core jobs. Everything depends. You can kind of read through. You might live near people. Can you leave the country? Yes. That's the major thing. Okay. And then perks, I would say it's, you know, really good for your resume. I ended up going to Harvard for grad school after this, and I think this really helped me get in. You can defer your student loans. It's awesome healthcare, and you make really lifelong friends. So it's really fun, and I recommend it. I'm happy to answer any other questions. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Savannah, for that trip around the world. It was fascinating and we learned a lot. And now we're going to turn it over to Vanessa.
Thank you, Julie. And oh my gosh, it's been so great to hear from everybody tonight. This is a really exciting room of people to be in. So much knowledge here. So my name is Vanessa Hayward, and I'm a senior education abroad coordinator here at CSU. And in my office, we facilitate 4 credit experiences for students. So we're generally facilitating experiences for students who are currently enrolled, but I want to talk to you about lots of other opportunities that you could participate in during a gap year. And like Savannah did, I'll share a little bit of my story. So during my undergrad experience, I spent a year abroad in France, and that was a goal of mine that I work towards. And after being in France for a whole year, I thought, when and how can I get abroad again? I couldn't do it fast enough. So I came back, I finished my senior year, and I just started looking for gap year opportunities. And I was able to find a work abroad program through a group called BUNAC, BUNAC. And I went to Scotland and I got a 6-month work visa. And I didn't know what I was going to do there, but I knew I could go. Back then, they had temp agencies, and I could go to a temp agency, and I had skills, enough skills. And I got a job working in an insurance company in their training and development section, which was actually a really good fit for me. And I didn't know that. So I guess part of what you're hearing tonight is if you're flexible and if you're okay with dealing with ambiguity, and if you create a plan for yourself, that you've got your finances kind of organized and you've got a safety net and you're going with an organization that'll support you, then you can deal with a little bit of ambiguity and be like, I'll be okay getting whatever job I get. And that's how I approached it. But here's a picture of me more recently in New York City, just having some fun in Times Square. So there's a lot of good life to live out there. So within Education Abroad, I work with our staff and faculty-led programs that help CSU students go abroad, go with staff and faculty. And I also work on scholarships and funding opportunities for our students. So we in Education Abroad offer all different kinds of opportunities, not just education, but education related like research and internships and service learning. Prior to the pandemic, we had about 22% of CSU students going abroad prior to graduation, so about 1 in 5 students, and we are working our way back there. Last summer, we had 6 staff and faculty-led programs that traveled, and we were so proud of that, to have those programs travel during the pandemic. This summer, we're going to have over 20 programs that travel. So we're excited to see that students want to travel and staff and faculty, and we're doing it in a healthy and safe manner during the global pandemic. There are so many things that you gain from going abroad, whether you do it during your undergraduate career, while you're a graduate student, during a gap year, or at some point, if you have an international experience. It really can reinvigorate you. So sometimes we're looking at a gap year as a way to be like, how do I want to position myself in this world? Maybe I need some like vim and vigor, like an injection of something new in my life. Also for your future, for a job application, for grad school, having an international experience can really help you stand out from everybody else. And we've already heard Kara speak about that. And then personally, this is just a great challenge that you can overcome. It might allow you to communicate in a new language, work within new systems, learn to deal with ambiguity, develop some grit and resiliency, or kind of like really focus on that grit and resiliency. I'm sure you've already got it in you. So here in Education Abroad, we're helping students facilitate experiences all around the globe. And within your college, Health and Human Sciences, we do have lots of students studying abroad, and our top destinations are listed here, and the kind of number of students who go abroad based on major, in case you're curious about that. We also work on developing recommended education abroad programs lists based on major. So within the College of Health and Human Sciences, we have a list for all the majors, including HDFS. So if you're going to be staying at CSU for a little while and want to take a look at that list, I would encourage you to do that or share it with a friend. We have different types of education abroad programs. We have exchange programs, we have staff and faculty-led programs, and we also have our affiliate providers. So that really allows us to kind of open up the world for students. And our programs can last anywhere from short-term, like a break, a week long over spring break or fall break, or they can be an 8-week program over summer, or they could be a program that goes for a whole semester or academic year. Programs can really range in cost. They can be the same cost as CSU, and they could be less and they could cost more. With our programs, we also make sure that students receive credit that's going to transfer back to CSU, or that they're taking a course that's transcripted through CSU. So they are all academically based. We offer financial aid for our education abroad programs. We have coordinators within the Office of Financial Aid, and we have an education abroad common scholarship application. So it's one application for the vast majority of scholarships that are offered, with 2 application deadlines, April 1 and October 1. We've got a team of education abroad coordinators here to support you, generally broken down by region of the world. And then we have lovely peer advisors who just returned from being abroad who want to speak with students. They do open advising with students. And I've got some next steps listed here if you did want to do education abroad. But I want to get to your gap year opportunities. So we chatted a little bit about teaching abroad. And I think it's really cool that Savannah was able to get her TEFL certification when she was in the Peace Corps. And there are several teach abroad programs that will do the same thing, that will certify you in TEFL or TESOL so that you have that certification. So that's kind of neat when you're evaluating teach abroad programs to see whether or not they'll offer the certification or if you have to have it before you can apply to the program. So here you just see just a few teach abroad programs where you would be teaching English in Spain, Chile, Brazil, France, Korea. I've shared these slides with the facilitators tonight, so please feel free to share out these slides, and the slide is linked so you can go directly to that teach abroad organization's website. I just want to be clear that we don't personally vet these programs. And these programs are for you to make sure that they're a good fit for you. So our job is to kind of give you some opportunities, and then I encourage you to research them and make sure that they're going to work for you. Also, in education abroad, we work with students who want to do research, internship, and service learning. And oftentimes students come to us towards the end of their career, so at CSU, and they're looking for opportunities that would be post-graduation. So we have a coordinator, his name is Christopher Snodgrass, and he works with students who are interested in research, internships, and service learning. So you could schedule an appointment to meet with Christopher. We do our scheduling via Navigate, and Christopher will share opportunities with you for either research, internships, or service learning abroad, and then let you take it from there. On our website, we have a whole page dedicated to postgraduate opportunities, so many that I can't put them all in a slide. So I just share the link with you here, and it's on our returnee section of our website. So I'd love for you to check that out. I also wanted to highlight the fact that at CSU, we have an Office for Scholarship and Fellowship Advising, and they do advising for post-grad opportunities for either research or pursuing graduate study abroad, teaching abroad, and service abroad. And they've got a great lineup for spring of info sessions. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that link and see, like, so many different opportunities coming up for the rest of the spring. And their staff, Mary Swanson is the program director and Liz Hale is their program coordinator. So they were pretty excited that I would be here tonight and could share this information about their office. So I would encourage you to meet with them as well. So some of the programs that they talk to you about, you might have heard of the Fulbright program, or DAD, RISE, the Rhodes Scholar program. So these are nationally and internationally competitive scholarships, and their goal is to help groom CSU students to be good candidates for these postgraduate international and national scholarship opportunities. So you can
1
talk
minute.
with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You can talk with them about the opportunities. They can share with you what a successful candidate looks like, and they can kind of walk you through what your options are. So thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm going to pass it back to Julie.
Thank you, Vanessa. I love this quote. There's a lot of good life to live out there. Thank you for sharing that with us. I agree with you. And we're going to need to talk after about how I facilitate a trip abroad. That sounds fantastic. All right, we're going to hand the mic over to Jake.
All righty, thank you so much. So I am going to be a little bit naughty and go rogue. Are my slides popped up? I'm so naughty. So yes, thank you for having me. I wasn't planning on using slides, but I decided last minute. So my name is Jake Drawlinger, he, him, his. I am representing City Year. Thanks just so much for having me and giving me this time to present with you all. As a recruiter, but also I am an alum of the program. And in essence, City Year really boils down to a gap year experience where you're committing to serving full time for a year in public schools, supporting students as tutors, mentors, and role models so that they feel confident and well equipped to stay in school and on track towards graduating. But to take kind of a little bit of a step back, I really want to talk about the why behind City Year. The US has honestly made some real progress towards improving high school graduation rates in the past several decades. But as a nation, we're still seeing that nearly 800,000 students aren't completing their high school education every year. That's about a student every 31 seconds. And so that's kind of jaw-dropping. But we know that this is a solvable problem because the crisis is concentrated. We know exactly which schools and students are struggling. The clear results of systemic racism and historical oppression also means that that concentration of schools that struggle most are supporting communities of color and minority populations and so many communities that are pushed to the fringe. So we know that this work is so much more than just a gap year. It's more than just education. It's really an act towards social justice and the belief that all students can succeed if they have the right resources and if they have the support. We know that they can. And so that's where our City Year members come in. And we are an AmeriCorps program. So we have City Year AmeriCorps programs that join us every year. At City Year, we really believe that we're part of a solution. So we partner with schools and communities, again, that are challenged by persistent inequities in our education system. And we try to create environments where all students can build on their strengths and just fully engage in their own learning. And through some of our work with Johns Hopkins University, we looked at kind of analytics to see what students and what schools are most at risk of dropping out. And we look at them and we found that there are early warning indicators that can help us identify those students. And kind of spoiler alert, that's how our AmeriCorps members in City Year support students, working on their attendance, making sure that they're showing up on time and ready to learn, behavior that they're engaged and feeling confident in their own learning abilities, and then coursework, really looking at their math and English language arts performance. And kind of to talk a little bit deeper about the experience itself and where you might come in. This experience is a full-time capacity, working on a team of diverse, passionate young folks who are in either an elementary, middle, or high school for that year. And your team is led by a team leader, an impact manager, folks that are going to set you up for success, provide you feedback, growth opportunities, and support you as you're navigating through this year. Your time primarily is spent in schools, supporting intervention programs, so academic tutoring, one-on-one, small group work in the classroom and outside of the classroom, after school programming, parent engagement, a lot. It also means the days are really long. Not gonna sugarcoat it. We do ask a lot, but your work and what you put forward speaks volumes. And really the experience that you get out of this is just incredible and kind of hard to describe too. A little bit more about the details. City or AmeriCorps members, it's crucial forging those positive relationships with students. If they have an adult in a school that they know they can rely on and count on and depend on every day, that makes them feel so much more able to come ready to take on their learning and to dive in. So that's important. This group one-on-one tutoring, you're partnering with teachers, looking at student level data, figuring out are our strategies working? Where do we need to pivot? Where do we need to meet the students where they're at? And you're really taking on a lot of different leadership roles at the school. You're wearing a number of different hats. So get ready to dive in. And just a little bit about benefits. Again, it's a year-long program, essentially about 11 months with training included. But with that, you do get a biweekly living stipend. So it is a paycheck. It's not buku cash. You're not balling out by any means. So be aware that budgeting is really critical when taking a gap year experience. But know that there are other forms of support that you really need to look at too. Relocation support with all AmeriCorps programs. After completing the terms of service, you get an education award, which currently is worth a little over $6,000 that can either go towards paying off past student loans or go towards future schooling. Again, similar to other programs, if you have some federal student loans, you can request to put those on hold during your service year. Any interest that's accrued is actually paid off by AmeriCorps. So that's a great benefit. And you can see some of the other items on there as well. And then just talk a little bit about applying. Online application, super straightforward. Generally, folks can apply and finish up within less than an hour. If you have your resume, you don't have to double up any of that information. And a couple short answer questions, one professional reference, and then there's one interview that takes place, typically over the phone. And then the last thing I'll just kind of leave on the screen for you all. We have a lot of locations, almost 30 across the country. Closest one being in Denver. You can see massive cities from like New York and LA to really small communities like a Columbia, South Carolina, or a Little Rock, Arkansas. But know that you can have an incredible impact wherever you go and wherever you choose to apply to. And that's an important point too. You can choose to apply directly to a location. Whatever your motivation is the right motivation. Whether you're going back home to a community you know, whether you're going to establish yourself in a place that you want to end up, or whether you just want to dive into a new experience, a gap year can be the perfect opportunity for that, and city year can be an opportunity for that. So thanks for the time, and appreciate all of you making it.
Jake, thank you so much. I love that. I love that you emphasize, yes, we ask a lot, but the students are going to get a lot back from this, and they're going to make a huge impact right in our state, even if they choose a Denver location. So thank you so much. We will hand the mic to Britt now.
Hello. I don't have any fancy slides, so apologize in advance, but you'll get so much more out of my words. So I am currently in Teach for America. I was placed in Memphis. I graduated from CSU in 2020 from HDFS. My concentration was prevention and intervention sciences. And yeah, I just figured I'd kind of walk us through how I got to TFA and then what like my basic responsibilities and everything that I do like as an actual teacher are. So starting with how I came to TFA, I, like most of you in here now probably, was kind of like, I don't know if I want to get my master's. I don't really know what I want to do after college. And a TFA recruiter came to one of the HDFS courses that I was in, gave like full spiel, and then I was like, oh my gosh, that could be fun. So I applied for TFA, and if anyone wants me like talk more in depth about the actual like recruitment process and what I had to do to get into TFA, I definitely can. But basically it was a few interviews. I had to teach a mini lesson, and then they placed me in Memphis. A lot of people ask me why Memphis, but I just kind of pointed and here I came. So yeah, then obviously 2020, the way that I was trained was a little bit different because of the pandemic being so new. So the training portion of TFA is 5 weeks in the summer, and you're typically supposed to be in the classroom, basically being like a summer school teacher, but obviously that didn't happen in 2020. So I just had totally virtual training. And then they stick you in a classroom, and depending on what certification you have, and also depending on where you are placed in the country, there are a bunch of different places that you can go. There's a TFA in Denver, Pueblo, and the Springs. So you could go anywhere in Colorado, those places, but also that we have them, I think, in almost every single state. So yeah, the way that Memphis works is they're their own licensing agency. So I have my teaching license from TFA Memphis, and basically in order to keep that, I just do a bunch of extra meetings and extra Saturday, like they call them summits, which is basically like you just go to TFA on one Saturday a month and they feed you and you go to a bunch of meetings. So in terms of long-term things that you can come from this is I have my teaching license now to teach biology 6 through 12, and you can be certified in any specialty. It just depends on the classes that you took in college. So my HDFS courses mainly gave me a biology certification. So I actually teach 6th grade science now, so fun. And yeah, so it's a 2-year experience that you are just a full-blown teacher. I feel like I didn't really realize that like I was actually going to be like the teacher. There was no one there, and I was like going to help. Right? It's me and 112 kids every single day. Like there's no one in between, no TFA people coming through at all. So a lot of what this experience is so far is just what any other 1st or 2nd year teachers experience, except I have some more meetings after school, which is kind of a shame. But it's very interesting being able to learn while I'm doing everything else, and hearing from like other actual education majors that are like, oh my gosh, yeah, I took that licensing exam, but I did it like junior year of college. That was so hard. Good luck studying. So having to balance like getting my teaching license on top of being an actual teacher in the classroom every single day is definitely something where you have to have all of your stuff in order to like actually get the certifications and be allowed to teach in the classroom, because if I didn't have like my planner and everything, I would fall apart every single day. But yeah, on to like the actual teaching, I just kind of thought I would walk us through like a week in what I do basically. So my contract hours at my school are from 7:30 to 5. So I get there every day at 7:30 and I leave at 5, but it's more like 6 o'clock every day, honestly. But so I teach 112 kids every day, and I also have a club after school and an advisory that we do a bunch of different things with as well. So that's like my actual everyday in the classroom where I'm serving the population. But after that, like I was saying, we have a bunch of different meetings, whether it's like national TFA meetings we have sometimes that are like science-based, or if you want to come and learn about this specific professional development, you can. But we also have cohorts within our TFA Memphis that allow us to like build community and get to know one another and make you feel like you're not the only teacher that's going through this, because you definitely aren't. And that's one of the main reasons why I chose to come to Memphis, because TFA Memphis is a huge thing, and they're like known to be one of the best TFA regions because there's just so much support, and there are just a lot of TFA teachers in Memphis. My school alone has 12 current core members at it, so whether a 1st year or a 2nd year, but there are TFA members all throughout the rest of my school building, current or past, which is really nice to be able to relate to others and not feel like you don't know what you're doing because they didn't know what they were doing either. So yeah, it's just a lot of different experiences every single day. There are so many things that like I never thought that I would experience that I get to experience with my kids every day, which is so nice. Also really challenging, and I'm pretty sure everyone has heard about being a first year teacher, and it's definitely, it means business. So yeah, it's a 2-year program. So I'm ending my 2nd year, but I am actually going to teach at least another year at my placement school. I don't plan on leaving after this year, but a lot of people just do the 2 years and then go back to getting their master's or something. And it really is like a huge boost on a resume, especially if we are thinking about going to law school or any sort of like prestigious school like that. One of my friends did not get into any law schools at all when they applied right out of undergrad, did TFA for 2 years, and now they go to Georgetown Law. And like, they didn't do much else except just teach in Memphis for 2 years. So it really is like a huge boost, and the skills that you learn are super applicable to many different things. Like, I feel very confident that I could go on and do tons of different things, like being program director, like some sort of communications aspects. There are just a lot of other things that I could do if I choose not to go and get some sort of master's or some sort of furthering my degree in any way. So yeah, that is just like the big about TFA. I am happy to answer any other questions later, but I will pass it along to the next person.
Thank you so much, Britt. I, again, love hearing about opportunities that we can do sort of right in our neighborhood, make a big difference, build skills, and get into Georgetown Law. So I feel like that's a win-win, right? Win-win-win for everybody. Okay, excellent. And we're going to hand it over now to Terry.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Terry Schlichting. I'm a health professions advisor here at CSU, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about different opportunities you can do to build experience if you are interested in going into healthcare, and what you can do with that gap year. More than 60% of students going into healthcare do take gap years, and that's for a variety of reasons. Let me just share my screen real quick here. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep. Yes,
Okay.
we can. Thank you.
So like I said, over 60% of students going into healthcare take gap years, and that's for a variety of reasons. One being is that for most health profession programs, you need to apply a year early. So that means you have to have all your experience lined up. You have to have the prerequisites lined up. And, you know, if there's any entrance exams or anything like that. And I am trying, okay, I got how to change the slide here. Okay, so areas to consider when you are considering gap year. And I focused this presentation on gap years specifically, one being because that's what the discussion is about. But if any of you have any questions about how to actually pursue a career in healthcare, I'm here to answer that as well. Feel free to email me, contact my office, whatever. So a couple areas I'm going to concentrate on is clinical experience, ways that you can build team building, leadership skills, demonstrate your empathy, and then maybe boosting your academic record. Because if you're anything like myself, sometimes your GPA after undergrad is not the best in the world. So clinical experiences are probably the most well-known and most important aspect of going into healthcare. And for HDFS majors, we work with a lot of pre-nursing students as well as pre-occupational therapy, but I also have a couple students who are pre-med and pre-PA as well. So I would say the most popular route for our students to build clinical experience is by getting certified as a nursing assistant or CNA. And that's because they do a really good job at catering to student schedules. one of the organizations here in town that we work with is called Columbine Health. And Columbine does a good job of offering training programs that meet during the evenings. They have some that meet over breaks, over the summer, things like that. But they're just one of many CNA training programs. Working as a CNA is not a glamorous job, and it can be quite difficult, but it is an excellent way to build your application, to build experience, and really see if healthcare is a good fit for you. Then there's medical assistant. Medical assistant, they can do a variety of things. They basically work in clinical settings, just helping out with the everyday operation of the clinic. And then there's medical scribe, which is basically a professional note taker. I don't know if some of you have had doctor's appointments lately where there's somebody taking notes. Well, that's the medical scribe. And they are just basically professional note takers. And then there's also EMT, so we're emergency medical technician. EMT training is offered by a variety of community colleges. There's a program here in Fort Collins. Front Range Community College has a variety of different levels of EMT training. Most of our students, though, they do the 1 semester, 15 credit hour EMT training. And then shadowing opportunities. So if you know any clinicians, doesn't necessarily even have to be the exact field you want to go into. That's also a great way to build experience if you're working another job, but you still want to pursue healthcare down the road in some way or another. And just to, to give you an example, the average age of a med school student this year was 26. So lots of time to figure it out. And it's similar for the other health fields as well. And then lastly, anything you can do to get your foot in the door with healthcare is good experience during a gap year if you plan on applying for a professional program. Okay, so I'm just gonna go a little bit one by one on the different aspects of things you can do during a gap year that also build experience and help you become a more robust candidate for a health profession program. So there are a number of camps for children with chronic health conditions and disabilities. Camp Wapi Yapi is one example. That's a camp in Woodland Park for kids with childhood cancer. And then there's also Roundup River Ranch. And I think Roundup River Ranch is something really unique that we have here in Colorado, in that it's a camp for kids with high medical needs. So they have a full medical staff on the camp, and it allows kids who wouldn't normally get the opportunity to go to camp and to experience that and to be quote unquote normal for just a couple weeks a year. And then any kind of nonprofit volunteering or work, things that show you care about your fellow human being, that you are a part of the community, that you care about your community. Any kind of nonprofit work is helpful, especially if it's working with people. And then travel opportunities, like Vanessa was speaking about earlier. Those, demonstrate that you are comfortable working with different cultures, that you have a good cultural competency, and that you can learn these other skills as well. So all those things, even though they might not be directly related to healthcare, are good ways to build experience. And then you want to do things that demonstrate empathy, so they know that you're not going to med school or occupational therapy school just for the money. They want to know that you truly do have a strong sense of empathy, that you understand the human condition in all its facets. And so, doing things that demonstrate that you are dedicated to working with people, helping people like that. And that's just a few examples right there. Okay, then there are the academic boosters, and some of these are not so fun to talk about as much as the others, but CSU does offer a couple different one-year master's programs. And what I find that why those are most advantageous for students is maybe you're right on the fence of what makes a strong candidate for a professional health program, and some of the one-year master's programs can really help boost your academic standing. The Department of Biomedical Sciences has a couple one-year master's programs. I know that HES has a couple one-year master's program. Does HDFS have any one-year master's programs?
I do not think we have any one-year master's program
Okay.
in our
Well,
department.
if you want to learn anything more about that, please contact me. I'd be happy to speak with you. And then there are just like the non-degree seeking classes that you can take to you take through, I think it's still called continuing education. I work with a number, especially what I noticed during the pandemic is we had a lot of students who graduated maybe 5-6 years ago that wanted to come back, and they decided they wanted to go into nursing or they wanted to do something like that. So they took some continuing education courses that would help them in their path to applying to those programs. And then certifications. So one popular certification is ultrasound tech or sonographer. And those can be done at community colleges. They have very good job placement, and they're pretty well paying as well. Okay, so I can rattle. I didn't want to come in here and rattle a lot of things off, but what I want to stress is that I'm happy to, speak with any of you, and I put my email address there. I did my undergrad here at CSU as well as my graduate work, and I also worked here for a lot of years. So I'm happy to speak with any of you. You can schedule an appointment online or contact me directly. I'd be happy to work with all of you. And I think that's about all I have.
Well, that's perfect timing. Thank you, Terry. Oh, that was amazing. What great opportunities, what great ways to not only make a difference, but build your own skills and experience along the way that can then open doors for future opportunities. Thank you so much to these panelists. I think we should give them a round of applause, everybody. I feel really jazzed about what we learned here, and what a great time to be an undergraduate student and be able to think about all of these opportunities waiting for you post-graduation. So we want to open it now to questions from you all. If you would like to unmute, you are welcome to do that and ask a question directly, or you can put one in the chat and we'll be watching for that. I also know that if we haven't yet, Lauren or Lucy, can we circulate, I'm not sure if it's in the chat, the sign in? We want to get that put in there at some point as well. And students, be sure to sign in the sign-in sheet with your name, class, and instructor name before we leave the event. And please unmute and chime in with a question anytime. Okay, I think I see one in the chat. Let me see if I can get that.
Yeah, Julie, I've got the chat open. Do you want me to?
Perfect. Yes, please Please do. Thanks.
So we've got a question in here from Julia Bunton, and she is asking, I think this is for you, Britt. She's asking if you get paid for Teach for America.
Yes, actually, so this is where it differs from City Year a ton because we are still an AmeriCorps program, but I am employed by my school, so I earn a salary.
Awesome, that's fabulous. We also have another question in the chat from Kylie Patterson, and I think this is for anyone who'd like to answer, but what do you think the biggest value is that comes from a gap year?
I'm happy to share a quick response. Again, Jake, with City Year, for me, it was getting to work with the most diverse group of people ever, from just different backgrounds, different lived experiences, but also how they approach problem solving, how they collaborate. Every day, I just got to learn from people and just got to learn new ways to approach the work. And so I think the diversity of the experience and the people and the communities you're serving in can be the biggest win.
I would just say on like a broader level, again, it's going to depend on the person, but I think just giving yourself that time for that self-reflection. I think something I didn't mention when I was talking earlier is I think there can be a lot of pressure as you know, a graduating student to feel like you need to have everything figured out and that you need to go straight into whatever the next thing is. And I think a gap year is just really valuable for giving yourself that time and space to figure that out, because then you're, you know, hopefully it will give you that chance to not feel so much pressure and really just have that time to really consider what's best for you.
I also just want to throw out a reminder. I did go ahead and put the link to the sign-in form in the chat. And so please make sure that you're signing in so that we can make sure we've got you in here as having attended. And if you're attending for extra credit, we can communicate that out with your faculty. Okay, we've got a couple of other questions that came through the chat. We have a question about TEFL programs for teaching abroad and if you will need a teaching license to apply, or can you get a teaching license through the process of teaching abroad?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really going to vary with the program that you're doing. Some of the programs will combine the teaching licensure with the start of your program before you would start teaching, and then other programs would require that you have it in advance. So I just want you to research each program to know what they require.
Great, thank you for that, Vanessa. Okay, we've got another question about City Year. Is City Year the traditional AmeriCorps program that you think of? And how many different types of AmeriCorps programs are there? So Jake, I think you might be able to answer part of this. And I don't know if anyone else might be able to add in to that response.
Yeah, so happy to share a little, just a smidge of history too. City Year started back in 1988. And one of the first kind of influencers who learned about City Year was Governor William Jefferson Clinton. And so he got really inspired by it. And he went on to create AmeriCorps based on some of his experiences of getting to meet with City Year members in Boston where it started. So City Year actually is kind of the traditional AmeriCorps program in that you're getting the biweekly living stipend, you're getting that AmeriCorps Education Award, you're getting the professional development and the support for the year and those extra benefits that go along with it. But I will speak to, there are so many AmeriCorps programs. It's this huge umbrella, and it covers so many different facets of service and needs in communities, from food insecurity and poverty, working with senior care, natural disaster response, working with homeless populations, trails and park restoration. So when you think about what community service can look like and service greater than yourself, that's AmeriCorps. And so I highly recommend checking out the AmeriCorps website because they also have programs that are lesser of an ask, where City Year is very much a full-time and then some program. There are smaller capacity AmeriCorps programs too, where you can get similar experiences.
Great, thanks for that. Do any of the other panelists have any additions to questions about AmeriCorps? And I did put a link to the AmeriCorps.gov website. I think Jake did a great job of explaining. It's a very multifaceted program with lots of different opportunities based on your interest areas. So encourage you to explore those. We have another question in here. Oh, this is interesting. Does doing volunteer work through AmeriCorps impact or increase your chances of getting accepted to Peace Corps? So Savannah, I think you might maybe be able to provide some perspective. And I don't know, maybe a step further, but are there things that you feel like best prepare folks to be a competitive Peace Corps applicant?
Great questions. I feel like, you look at Peace Corps and it's like, oh, it's so competitive. And that's honestly why it took me a while to think about applying, because I thought I wasn't qualified at first. So I know a few people who did AmeriCorps. A lot of them did City Year actually, and then went to the Peace Corps. So that was a cool connection. And I know some that got back from Peace Corps and then did AmeriCorps. So it kind of goes back and forth. And I'm not sure, I think it could help. I don't know. I think it's all about your conglomeration of your experiences. And if you feel like you have the drive, honestly, to do what Peace Corps is asking of you, they're looking for people who are qualified in whatever field you're going into in whatever sector, but it's also who can stick it out for 2 years. I was living without a lot of electricity for 2 years, and I had experiences in other countries abroad. So I think that kind of prepared me a little bit more than my schooling or my job education or job experience. So I think it's, you have to also apply and do a soft skills quiz. So they look at what you're not just what's on your resume, but what are your qualities as a person. So I would say, if you feel like you haven't done a lot of extracurricular, or not even extracurriculars, but if you just want more experience, I think doing an AmeriCorps program is an amazing way to get that experience. And then, from there, that's also its own gap year in itself of do I want to go on to Peace Corps? Do I want to continue what I'm doing here? So I would say, you definitely don't have to do AmeriCorps. If you want to, that's awesome. And I think that would help a lot. But I think also being yourself, if you really want to do Peace Corps, typically that shines through your resume and through your experience and through your application, and they see that as well.
Great. These are fabulous questions that have been shared through the chat, and I would encourage you to, if you have other questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or continue to put them in the chat. But I'm going to put a question out there, and I'm curious for each of the panelists to answer this maybe. But what's kind of a myth or a piece of misinformation that you had prior to your experience that, if you could go back and tell yourself, don't worry about that, what would that be when taking a gap year? And if I need to rephrase the question, I'm not sure if
Is this for anyone? I can go first.
Yeah, it's for anyone.
I mean, like I said, I've taken a couple different gap year experiences, and each one I kept going into it. I think there's two things. One is I went into it thinking this is me, kind of having what is it, first person syndrome or whatever. I was oh, this is all about me. I'm going to be alone, and it's going to be really isolating. And it's actually the opposite in a lot of these experiences. There's other people around that are in the same boat as you, same ocean, and, you know, having, you know, whatever thoughts and anxiety, nervousness that you're having, it's everybody's kind of having that. And I think along with that is like, I think going into these experiences without any expectations is also really important, because whatever you're expecting probably won't happen, and whatever you're not expecting will happen. So it's great to just kind of keep your mind open, know that, like, you know, if you're choosing one of these gap year experiences, that like, trust yourself that it's something that you want to do, and kind of, I recommend kind of going with the flow and seeing what will come of it. So those are my two little things.
I can share. So for me, having my gap year experience, people said, like, it's going to throw you off your path. You're not going to stay focused. And that was totally not true. It just reinvigorated me. It gave me more enthusiasm for living. It gave me some real concrete skills that I could use. Made me feel good about myself. Like, I did this thing. Like, there was this goal that I had and I accomplished it, which really then, like, shined through when I went on interviews later and applied to grad school. Like, that confidence really came out. And that's all thanks to taking that year off and going abroad.
Happy to share. I would say, as far as expectations, I try to beat the drum of this is a full-time commitment, at least, you know, for my program and for a lot of gap year type programs. And a lot of individuals will just kind of hone in on the hours and say, what is that, 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week? Oh, I can manage that. I've been managing school and a couple of jobs and all this and that. But it's important to really recognize that this is emotionally heavy work too. Oftentimes with a gap year experience, when you're supporting communities and you're a part of a mission that is so much larger than yourself. And so really going into the experience, you can just think about the hours and it can be like, oh, I can schedule, I can manage that. But really thinking about the time that you're going to need to decompress, to reflect, to share, to let stuff off your chest, whatever it is. And some programs will have that built in and like have that, you know, in a team-based approach, or they'll have spaces provided for that. But sometimes you have to figure out how to make that yourself. And, you know, that may seem like it may rub you the wrong way at times, but also that's a part of a gap year experience. Really learning and figuring out yourself, really navigating these spaces and figuring out how to manage with tight budgets, how to manage with, you know, low capacity staff. You know, you're supporting, you know, schools where you're wearing a lot of different hats, or in communities where you're wearing a lot of different hats. So understand the commitment. And like we were saying, you know, make sure that you can commit to that.
I can jump onto that too. I totally agree with like understanding the commitment that you're making, but also just like living in the moment and like realizing that you took this opportunity, and so you should be getting everything out of it that you can. Sometimes I feel myself being like, I do not want to do that, like not doing anything extra, but then like thinking about it, like when will I ever have another chance to like coach a middle school boys soccer team and like get all of this out of it? Like there are just like so many other opportunities that you can and should latch onto if you are going to take a gap year experience, and really just like immerse yourself into the experience.
And I would just say too, I think a lot of times we hear from, you know, well-meaning people, whether it's parents or whoever, you know, might look at a gap year as like oh, you're just like, you know, taking some time off and you're not doing anything with yourself. And, or, you know, kind of going back to what I had mentioned earlier of like, you know, with grad school, especially, I hear that a lot. Like, you know, if you don't go now, you'll never go, or you need to like hurry up and go right away, or you need to start working. You'll have plenty of time in your life for those things. So I think just thinking about a gap year is like a great opportunity for this point in your life, you know, transitioning from college. You've been in school for a long time. So thinking about, okay, what do you want that transition to look like, and not necessarily listening to if people are saying like, you should do this, or you should do that, or because it's your life.
I would also add that, you know, not everybody, if you're anything like I was, not everybody knows what they want to do when they graduate. So like these opportunities are great ways to kind of explore what you might be interested in and things like that. Life isn't a linear path. It takes all sorts of twists and turns. And I think through that, we learn a lot, and we grow as individuals. And these are examples of how you can do that constructively.
Great, thank you for that, Terry. I think that's a really fabulous note to, wrap up on, maybe, Julie. I think I'm not seeing any other questions come through the chat. But yeah, I think this is a journey. You've been on a journey through undergrad, and I think it's really neat to kind of explore what can be next on your journey. So thank you for that, Terry. And Julie, I'll turn it on over to you again.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you, everybody. Wow. Oh my goodness. Not only was this so much fun, but we are taking away such valuable information. Students, I hope that you are inspired to make your gap year whatever you want it to be. And if you do take a gap year, email Lucy or myself and let us know where you end up, because we'd love to hear from you. To our amazing panelists, thank you. A round of applause again. You were incredible. You provided so much information. We appreciate your time, and we appreciate gleaning from you. And so I think that's it. On that note, everybody, thank you for attending, and stay warm and safe. And we'll wrap up our gap year event.
Thank you for joining us.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.